A piercing scream fills the apartment, shattering the silence of the night. Sarah stands frozen in the doorway, holding her son tightly against her chest. Mark stands just inside the apartment, his face contorted in fury, fists clenched. "You're ruining us, Sarah," Mark yells, his voice harsh with anger. "Well, this is all your fault." His words echo, heavy and accusatory. Mark turns abruptly, slamming the door behind him with a force that reverberates through the apartment. Sarah remains motionless in the doorway, still gripping Lucas tightly, her heart racing in her chest. The faint sound of distant sirens creeps into the room, signaling that help is on the way. But for now, everything feels suspended in a tense, painful silence. Lucas looks up at his mother, eyes wide with confusion and fear, unable to understand the turmoil surrounding them. "It's going to be okay," Sarah whispers, more to herself than to him, trying to convince them both. But even she isn't sure of that. The door slams shut, and the apartment is drowned in silence once more. Sarah stands motionless for a moment, her heart still racing, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Her breath comes in shallow gasps, trying to steady herself. Lucas, still holding on to her, looks up at her with fear in his eyes, his small voice breaking the silence. "Mom, what happened?" His question hits her like a wave, and she struggles to find the words. She takes a deep breath, trying to push down the fear that's clawing at her insides. "Nothing, sweetie. Everything's okay," she whispers, though her voice betrays her. The sound of sirens continues to grow closer, and Sarah knows she should be more composed, but she's not sure how to hold it together anymore. The darkness of the moment weighs heavily on her. "We're going to be fine," she repeats softly, but the words feel hollow. Sarah slowly steps further into the apartment, the weight of Lucas's gaze pulling at her. Her heart is still pounding, but she forces herself to breathe deeply, to calm down. She sits down on the couch with him beside her, trying to make the space feel safer. The sounds of the city, distant yet persistent, float through the window, but they do nothing to ease the growing tension. "I'm scared, Mom," Lucas says, his voice small and uncertain. His words break Sarah's fragile composure, and she pulls him closer, kissing the top of his head. "I know, baby," she whispers, her voice barely above a breath. "But we'll be okay. I promise." Yet, deep down, she's unsure of her own promise. How could she guarantee safety when everything around them seems to be falling apart? The thought gnaws at her, but she refuses to show it. She won't let Lucas see the cracks forming in her resolve. A few minutes pass in silence, but the weight of the moment doesn't lift. Sarah rubs her eyes, trying to push the exhaustion and fear away. She can hear the sirens growing closer, the sound a sharp reminder that this night is far from over. She needs to be strong, not just for herself but for Lucas. "Can we go to the park tomorrow, Mom?" Lucas asks, his voice quieter now, as though he's trying to return to a simpler time. His words are like a lifeline, a way to hold on to something normal in this sea of chaos. Sarah looks down at him, forcing a smile, though it's more of a mask than anything genuine. "Of course we will," she says, the words coming easier than she expected. She strokes his hair gently, wanting to believe the lie. "Tomorrow will be different," she tells herself. But the truth is, she doesn't know what tomorrow will bring. Sarah leans back, closing her eyes for a brief moment as she exhales slowly. The silence is thick, heavy with unspoken fears and questions. The distant wail of sirens continues, but it feels like a far-off echo. She tries to focus, to stay grounded for Lucas. "I love you, Mom," Lucas says suddenly, breaking the stillness between them. His voice is quiet but firm, as if the words carry a weight that he himself understands. Sarah's heart skips a beat, and she opens her eyes, looking down at him. "I love you too, baby," she responds, her voice cracking slightly. She holds him tighter, her own fears momentarily drowned out by the love she feels for him. In this moment she knows that no matter what happens, she will fight to protect him. But she wonders, as the sirens grow louder, if her fight will be enough. The following day, Sarah sits in her lawyer's office, a stack of papers in front of her. Jason, her lawyer, flips through the documents, his face grim. "The evidence they've gathered isn't good, Sarah," he says, his voice steady but heavy with concern. Sarah feels a knot tighten in her stomach. She thought she was prepared for the battle, but hearing those words makes it real. "What does that mean for me? For Lucas?" she asks, her voice faltering. Jason leans back in his chair, running a hand through his short, dark hair. "It means we have to fight harder than we thought," he replies. Sarah looks down at the papers, her mind racing. The stakes are higher now. She's not just fighting for herself anymore. "I won't lose him, Jason. I won't," she says, her tone firm, but the fear in her chest lingers. Jason nods, but there's no certainty in his eyes. Later that evening, Sarah returns home to find Lucas playing quietly in the living room. He looks up as she enters, his face lighting up with a small, hopeful smile. "Mom, are you okay?" he asks, his voice full of concern. Sarah doesn't answer immediately, her heart heavy as she sees the trust in his eyes. She smiles weakly, walking over to him. "Yeah, sweetie?" "I'm fine," she says, but the words feel like a lie even as she speaks them. She sits next to him, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. I need you to know that no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you." Lucas nods, but there's a flicker of doubt in his eyes. He's starting to sense the tension in the air, and Sarah wonders how long she can keep up the facade of reassurance. The following day, Sarah heads to the courthouse for the custody hearing. The weight of the moment presses down on her as she walks into the sterile, cold building. She's greeted by a stern receptionist who directs her to the courtroom. As she waits outside the door, Sarah's nerves spike, her hands shaking slightly. She takes a deep breath, trying to steady herself. It's just a few more hours, she tells herself. But with every passing second, her resolve weakens. The door opens, and the court officers call her name. As she steps inside, she forces herself to stand tall, but her heart pounds in her chest. She sits down at the table, her eyes scanning the room for Mark, and then she notices the glint of smugness in his eyes. It's the first time she's seen him since the fight, and his presence feels like a punch to the gut. Inside the courtroom, the tension is palpable. Sarah sits across from Mark, her heart racing as she listens to his lawyer argue that she is unfit to raise Lucas. She's unstable, Mark's lawyer claims, and she's made poor decisions in the past that affect her ability to care for her child. Sarah feels the sting of the words, but she bites her lip and refuses to react. She knows that if she shows any sign of weakness, it will only be used against her. The judge looks at her, his expression unreadable. "Do you have anything to say in your defense, Mrs. Thompson?" he asks, his voice cold and clinical. Sarah stands, her knees weak, but she forces herself to speak. "I am a good mother. I have worked tirelessly for my son, and I will continue to do whatever it takes to provide for him and keep him safe," she says, her voice firm. But as she finishes speaking, doubt starts to creep in. Will her words be enough? Later that evening, Sarah returns home, exhausted and emotionally drained. She slumps onto the couch, her body heavy with the weight of the day. Lucas comes running into the room, his face filled with concern. "Mom, are you okay?" he asks, his voice small but worried. Sarah smiles weakly, trying to push the exhaustion and fear aside. "I'm okay, sweetie," she says, her voice soft. "Just a little tired." But Lucas looks at her closely, his brow furrowed with worry. "You don't look okay." Sarah's heart aches as she looks at him, the weight of everything pressing down on her. "I'm okay," she repeats, but it feels like a lie. She pulls him close, holding him tightly. "We're going to be okay," she whispers, but even she doesn't know if that's true anymore. Sarah's world is turned upside down when she receives an unexpected phone call. She's been avoiding family for years, but today, an unfamiliar number flashes on her screen. With hesitation, she answers. "Sarah? It's Lily," the voice on the other end says. "Lily." Her estranged sister. Sarah's breath catches in her throat. The name alone brings back a flood of painful memories. "I know it's been a long time, but I've been following your case," Lily continues. "I think I can help." Sarah is silent, her mind racing. She never thought she would hear from Lily again, let alone in the midst of her custody battle. Lily's voice is laced with a sense of urgency, but also something else. A kind of guilt. I owe you, Sarah, and I think you're going to need me more than ever. Sarah doesn't know what to feel. Anger, relief, confusion. But she knows this call could change everything. Sarah stands frozen in the kitchen, the phone still pressed to her ear. Lily's words hang in the air, heavy and unresolved. I've been watching you, Lily says, her tone darkening. I've been keeping track of everything. Your fight, your eggs. I know it all. The admission strikes Sarah hard, the anger rising quickly in her chest. Why? Why now, Lily? Sarah's voice shakes with a mixture of betrayal and disbelief. Lily is silent for a moment, as though she's choosing her next words carefully. Because I never wanted to be part of your mess, Sarah. But now, I see what's at stake. I see the man you're up against. The words sting, but they also make something inside Sarah shift. You can help me, but it's going to cost you. Are you ready for that? Lily's voice is softer now, almost pleading. Sarah's heart races, and she doesn't know if she should trust her. But she knows one thing. She's out of options. Later that evening, Sarah stands in the living room, her eyes glued to the phone as she stares at a text from Lily. Meet me tomorrow. We'll talk about the evidence you need. Sarah is torn, the decision weighing heavily on her. She thought she was done with Lily, that the past was buried, but now the weight of it has resurfaced. She looks over at Lucas, who's playing quietly in the corner, unaware of the storm brewing around them. Should I really trust her? Sarah mutters to herself, running a hand through her hair. Her thoughts are a whirlwind. What would this help come at? And is she willing to confront the parts of herself she's tried to forget? Sarah's chest tightens as the fear creeps back in. What's the cost? She whispers, her voice heavy with dread. The answer hangs in the air, but Sarah knows she must go. For Lucas, for the future they both deserve. The next day, Sarah and Lucas arrive at a small cafe, where Sarah is supposed to meet Lily. Sarah stands outside, her nerves on edge, as she watches the people walking by. She's nervous, unsure of what to expect. A part of her wants to turn back, but she knows she can't. Lily is the only one who might have the key to winning the custody battle, but trusting her again is a risk that feels almost impossible. A figure approaches her from behind. Sarah turns around and there stands Lily, looking different than she remembers. Her appearance is sleek, her eyes hiding something, and her face, though familiar, feels distant. Lily smiles slightly, her hands in her pockets. It's been a long time, hasn't it? She says quietly. Sarah's heart pounds as she tries to read her sister's expression. There's so much unsaid between them, and Sarah doesn't know if she's ready to face it all. Let's talk, Sarah says, her voice steady but filled with uncertainty. As they sit down at a small table inside the cafe, the weight of their years apart lingers in the air. Sarah stares at the cup of coffee in front of her, unsure of where to start. Lily sips her drink quietly, watching her sister. Finally, Sarah speaks, her voice low. What do you want, Lily? Why now? Lily sets her cup down slowly, her eyes meeting Sarah's. I want to help you, Sarah. I've been watching you fight this battle, and I can't stand by and do nothing anymore. Sarah looks at her, her heart pounding. What's your angle? She asks, suspicion creeping into her voice. Lily pauses for a moment, her gaze softening. I'm here because I owe you. I'm here because I never should have walked away from you. The admission hits Sarah like a wave. She didn't expect this. She didn't expect her sister to say the words she'd been waiting to hear. I'm all in, Sarah, Lily continues, her tone quiet but resolute. But be careful. There are things you don't know, and they could cost you everything. The courtroom is packed, and the tension is thick as Sarah stands before the judge, her heart racing. She watches as Mark's lawyer presents false evidence of her unfit parenting. This woman is unstable, the lawyer argues, and her emotional volatility makes her an unfit mother. Sarah's body tenses as she feels the accusation pierce her heart. She watches Mark, whose face is hard with victory, as he glances smugly at the jury. The weight of the lies weighs down on her, but she can't show it. "I am not unstable," she says firmly, her voice cutting through the room. "I'm fighting for my child. I've sacrificed everything for him, and I will never stop fighting for him." Her voice cracks slightly, but she steadies herself. The courtroom falls into silence as Sarah's words hang in the air. The judge looks at her, his expression unreadable. The stakes are higher than ever. Sarah sits down after her testimony, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Out. She watches as Mark's lawyer presents fabricated evidence, doctored photos, exaggerated reports from her therapist. The lawyer's voice rings out. "These are signs of instability." Sarah feels a wave of panic but refuses to give in. She's been here before, fighting for her son's future, and she won't back down now. The evidence is a lie, and she knows it. Her lawyer, Jason, stands up and begins his counter-argument. This evidence is not only flawed but manipulated. Sarah Thompson has been the primary caregiver for her child, and she's done everything in her power to provide him with a stable environment. Sarah's heart pounds as Jason defends her, but it's still unclear whether the truth will win out in this battle. As the courtroom drama unfolds, Sarah feels the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She sees the jury, their faces a mixture of confusion and judgment. She's being scrutinized, her every word and gesture dissected. Mark's lawyer continues to make false claims, each one a new cut to her confidence. She can feel the doubt creeping in, but she steels herself. "I am not perfect," Sarah says, her voice trembling slightly but growing stronger. "But I have never stopped loving my son. I've made mistakes, yes, but I've never stopped fighting for him." The judge looks at her with an unreadable expression, and for a moment, Sarah feels exposed, vulnerable, but also more certain than ever. She won't let Mark take Lucas from her. Not without a fight. The tension in the courtroom peaks when the judge asks both parties to make their closing statements. Sarah stands again, her legs shaking slightly, but her resolve steady. She looks at the jury and speaks from the heart. "I am not asking for sympathy. I'm asking for justice. For my son. I have worked harder than anyone to ensure he is happy, healthy, and loved. I have sacrificed everything, and I will continue to fight for him, no matter what it costs me." Her voice cracks with emotion, but she doesn't stop. "I am more than the mistakes of my past. I am a mother who loves her child. That is all that matters." The room falls silent, the gravity of her words hanging in the air. Sarah steps back from the stand, and the judge calls for a brief recess. For the first time in hours, she feels like she might have said what she needed to. The day of the verdict arrives. Sarah, along with her lawyer Jason, sits in the courtroom, awaiting the decision that will change her life. Her nerves are frayed, and Lucas sits beside her, his small hand in hers. The silence is deafening as the judge enters, and everyone stands. The judge sits down, adjusts his glasses, and speaks. "After reviewing the evidence and the testimonies presented, I have reached a decision." Sarah holds her breath, her heart racing in her chest. One will be weighed. She feels the world slow around her, everything else disappearing. "I award primary custody of Lucas Thompson to his mother, Sarah Thompson." Sarah's breath catches in her throat, the relief crashing into her. Tears fill her eyes as she looks down at Lucas, his face lighting up with an innocent joy that makes her heart swell. She has won. Finally, she's won. Weeks after the custody ruling, Sarah stands in the living room of her apartment, watching Lucas play quietly with his toys on the floor. The silence in the room is no longer oppressive, it feels peaceful, almost serene. Sarah has fought for everything she has, and now she's starting to believe that this fight was worth it. "We did it, Lucas," she whispers softly, a smile forming on her lips as she watches him. The exhaustion she's been carrying for months seems to lift, replaced by a quiet satisfaction. The weight of the past still lingers, but it's different now. She feels like she has room to breathe, like she's finally found her footing again. It's not the victory she envisioned, not the grand moment of triumph, but it's enough. For the first time in a long time, Sarah allows herself to relax, if only for a moment. As Sarah sits on the couch, she looks at the framed photos on the mantel. Some of them are old, from happier times before the battle began, while others are recent, pictures of Lucas and her smiles that feel genuine. But even now there's a part of her that feels scarred, that carries the weight of all the sacrifices she's made. "We made it through, didn't we?" Sarah says to herself, almost in disbelief. Lucas looks up from his toys, his face bright with a smile. "Yeah, Mom, we did." His simple, matter-of-fact response melts away the last of Sarah's doubts. She knows they've made it through together. The past might have left scars, but they've learned how to heal, how to keep going. The future is still uncertain, but for now, they have each other. And that's enough. Sarah steps into the kitchen to start preparing dinner, feeling a quiet sense of satisfaction. The silence between her and Lucas no longer feels heavy. They've found their rhythm, their new normal. Sarah looks out the window, watching the setting sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "We'll be okay, Lucas," she says softly, though it feels more like a promise to herself than to him. Lucas, still sitting in the living room, nods without looking up. He's drawing, lost in his own world, but his presence in the room fills Sarah's heart with a warmth she's never known. She doesn't have all the answers, but she knows she has love, and that's more than enough. That night, after Lucas has gone to bed, Sarah sits on the couch alone, reflecting on everything she's been through. The weight of her past battles still lingers, but for the first time, she feels like she's finally free. Her mind drifts back to the courtroom, to the victory she didn't expect but fought for relentlessly. She smiles softly, a mix of pride and relief filling her chest. "I did it," she says quietly, almost as if to reassure herself. "We did it." The room is quiet, but it's no longer filled with tension or fear. It's filled with peace, a peace Sarah fought long and hard to find. As Sarah tucks Lucas into bed that night, she presses a kiss to his forehead, watching him drift off to sleep. She pulls the blanket over him gently, her heart swelling with love and pride. "Good night, my love," she whispers. Lucas stirs, his face soft with sleep, and mumbles, "Good night, Mom." Sarah stands there for a moment, watching him, her heart full. She knows the road ahead won't always be easy, but she also knows that with Lucas by her side, she's stronger than ever. She steps out of his room, closing the door softly behind her, and for the first time in a long time, she feels a sense of peace wash over her. The fight isn't over, but she's ready for whatever comes next. Together, they'll face it. The days following the court ruling are filled with an overwhelming sense of relief. Sarah looks out the window one afternoon, watching as the sunlight filters through the trees. The world feels a little quieter now, softer. She still finds herself thinking about the battle, the fight for custody, the pain, and the emotional toll. But it feels distant now, like a bad dream she's finally woken up from. "We're okay now, Lucas," she whispers to herself, glancing over at him as he plays in the corner of the room. He looks up at her and smiles, his innocence still untouched by the chaos they've been through. "Yeah, Mom," he says, his voice light and carefree. "We're okay." The simple truth in his words settles in her chest. They're okay together, and that's all that matters now. As the weeks pass, Sarah feels the change in herself. She's no longer defined by the fight, the fear, or the scars of the past. There's a quiet strength inside her now, one she never expected to find. "I'm not broken," she says quietly, looking at her reflection in the mirror one evening. She's learned that strength isn't about never falling, but about rising up every time you do. The soft hum of the evening fills the air as she runs her fingers through her hair, finally able to look at herself with kindness. She's done with the past. The future is all that matters now. And the future, she knows, will be bright because she has Lucas by her side. One afternoon, as Sarah and Lucas walk through the park, she watches him play on the swings, his laughter ringing through the air. She takes a deep breath, feeling the cool breeze brush against her face. It's moments like this, simple, everyday moments, that remind her why she fought so hard. She watches him, her heart swelling with love. "I never thought I'd get here," she admits softly, her eyes misty. "But I wouldn't change a thing." Lucas looks at her from the swing, his smile wide and carefree. "Me neither, Mom," he says, his voice filled with joy. "This is the best day ever." His words bring a tear to Sarah's eye, not of sadness, but of overwhelming gratitude for the life they've built. As Sarah and Lucas walk home from the park, she takes his hand in hers, feeling the bond between them grow stronger with each passing day. "You know, Lucas," Sarah begins, her voice soft but filled with a quiet certainty, "I think we've learned how to be a team, haven't we?" Lucas looks up at her, nodding enthusiastically. "Yeah, we're a team," he exclaims, squeezing her hand. Sarah smiles, her heart full. "We always will be," she replies. "No matter what comes our way, we're in this together." As they walk side by side, the future feels wide open, full of possibilities, full of hope. Later that evening, as Sarah tucks Lucas into bed, she leans down to kiss him goodnight. His small arms reach up to wrap around her neck in a tight hug. "Good night, Mom. I love you," he says softly. Sarah smiles, her heart full, as she kisses his forehead. "I love you too, more than anything," she whispers. She stands up slowly, watching him settle into sleep. For the first time in a long time, Sarah feels truly at peace. She walks out of his room, the quiet of the house wrapping around her like a warm embrace. She knows the road ahead won't always be easy, but she's no longer afraid. Whatever comes, they'll face it together. Months later, Sarah stands in the living room of their new home, her hands resting on her hips as she surveys the room. The house feels different now, alive with warmth and comfort. The walls, once empty, are now adorned with family photos, moments frozen in time, capturing their journey. She watches Lucas, who is playing on the floor with his toys, his laughter filling the air. Her heart swells with gratitude, knowing how far they've come. "We really made it, huh?" she says softly, more to herself than to anyone else. Lucas looks up from his game, his face lighting up with a smile. "Yeah, Mom, we did." His simple affirmation is everything Sarah needs to hear. The weight of their past battles has finally lifted, and for the first time in a long time, Sarah feels at peace. The future is no longer uncertain. It is bright. As the day fades into evening, Sarah prepares dinner in the kitchen, the scent of home-cooked food filling the air. Lucas is seated at the table, scribbling on a piece of paper. The simple sounds of their daily routine are comforting, and Sarah feels the peace that has settled into their lives. She glances over at Lucas, her heart swelling with love. "What are you drawing, bud?" she asks, her voice soft. Lucas looks up, a proud grin on his face. "It's a picture of us, me, you, and the house," he exclaims. Sarah walks over and peers at the drawing, her heart bursting with emotion. "It's perfect," she says, bending down to kiss his cheek. They're not just surviving anymore. They're thriving together. Later that night, after dinner, Sarah and Lucas sit together on the couch, watching a movie. The soft glow of the TV flickers across their faces as they share a quiet moment. Sarah looks at Lucas, feeling the weight of the past few years lift from her shoulders. "You know, Lucas," she begins, her voice thoughtful, "I think we've learned how to be a team, haven't we?" Lucas looks up at her, his eyes full of innocence and understanding. "Yeah, we make a good team," he says with a confident nod. Sarah smiles, her heart swelling with pride. They've come so far, and she knows that, no matter what happens next, they will face it together, as a team, stronger than ever. The next morning, Sarah and Lucas go to the park, enjoying the fresh air and the freedom of a lazy weekend. Sarah pushes Lucas on the swing, the wind gently tousling her hair. She watches as he kicks his legs higher and higher, laughing with pure joy. "Mom, look how high I'm going," he shouts, his voice full of excitement. Sarah smiles, pushing the swing gently. "I see you, buddy," she says, her heart light with happiness. The world feels wide open in this moment, and Sarah knows that despite everything they've been through, the future holds endless possibilities for them. They are free, and together they are unstoppable. That evening, after they return from the park, Sarah tucks Lucas into bed. She sits beside him for a moment, watching him drift off to sleep. "Good night, my love," she whispers, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "I love you so much." Lucas stirs slightly, his voice soft and sleepy. "I love you too, Mom." Sarah smiles, her heart full. She stands up, walking toward the door, but before she leaves, she turns back for one last look. Lucas is already asleep, his small body curled under the blanket. For a moment, Sarah just stands there, watching him, feeling the deep sense of peace that only motherhood can bring. She knows there will be challenges ahead, but for now, in this quiet moment, everything is perfect.